And we are live on Facebook. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Solution Sunday. We are live on Facebook. Here we go. So welcome to our holiday edition, our closing out of the 2021 year edition of Solution Sunday. And I wanted to close out this year with a story of hope and healing, because this year there's been a lot of unhope, whatever that word was. It's not a word I even use, whatever that word was.
Uncertainty. We can go with uncertainty.
There we go, uncertainty. So we wanted to talk and end the year with a really beautiful, uplifting story. And so we can all look ahead to 2022 and start to realize what we can create. How much better can we create this world to be? So my guest today is Brenda Castor, and she has had a stroke of luck. And we are going to learn all about that today. Good morning, Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Lisa. This is kind of an honor to be on your show here. And so, well, I'll just start with, I have spent the majority of my life in a state of stress. That probably started when I was 3, and it culminated into May of 2011. I had huge amount of stress that I was under then, and I ended up having a massive stroke. It was called a Wallenberg syndrome stroke, which means that you're hit on both sides of the brain stem, and the clinical odds of survival are about 13%, because the area where you're hit controls all the fundamental breathing, swallowing, all the automatic systems in your body is controlled by that. And so I was in a critical care unit for about 3.5 weeks, and I was moved to a care facility while I was still unconscious. And my dad apparently was like, she's not ready for that. And they just basically said, she's not getting any rest. And that's what she needs, is rest. Well, I ended up being there for about 3.5 weeks. But before I woke up, I guess I was there a few days. But before I woke up, I kind of took a journey to the other side. And when I went there, I was met by the angel Gabriel. And he was several stories high. People always met, what was he like? I go, he was like giant. But his body, I mean, he looked like one of those romance novel guys, with flowing hair and, built and whatever. But that was a facade, because around his eyes, his nose, his mouth, I could see light emanating. It's like this little facade he had on was straining to keep him covered, because I think his essence is pure light, pure love. I don't think a human mind could comprehend that. Might kind of make you insane, is what my thoughts were. And he looked at me, and there was no verbal communication. It was soul to soul, and basically indicated that I had a choice to make. And so he had this giant sword, and he pointed it at this big, huge rock facade, and he said, you can go. Well, my whole life, I knew this wasn't my home. I knew it was my home, and I always wanted to go home. And it was like, just please, I would beg to go home. And there it was. There was my home. And I just wanted to run and go, okay, thanks, and hit the road and go. It was everything I would find beautiful. It wasn't a house. It was just everything I would find beautiful. There was a brook, there was moss, it was forest, there were fairies. It was so awesome, but I knew that wasn't it. And I was pretty sad, because I did want to go there. And I just looked at him and I said, you know what? I can't, because I'm not done. And he goes, okay. And that just disappeared. That choice was gone. So my second choice is I could come back to exactly how I was. And he pointed his sword, and then this faded, and I saw a big map, and it was a mining map. And it was like one of those games where you look at two halves and see what's different in the two halves. They're exactly the same, but there's like 10 differences, and you got to spot them. Well, the right side of this map had like this little mining car, and it started from when I was born, and it goes up, and it goes to when I die, way up. And I'm about halfway up there, and I'm like, all I see is this little, it's like how my life was supposed to be. Kick back and easy. I was to get in the cart and just go. So I look to the left side, which is what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, everything's the same, but where am I? I don't see myself here, because that's just how it's supposed to be. And on this side, I'm like, well, where am I? Well, I see myself. I'd taken my little cart off the track, and I filled it with all kinds of shit up to the sky of things I wanted to do my way. And I started pushing this cart through these rocks. And I looked at him and I was like, I can't go back to that. That was way too hard. What I was doing was way too hard. I can't go. And he said, well, that's fine, you know. So then I had another choice, and he says, you can let go. And I probably could have had a million choices. There's no time, so there was no rush, there's no nothing. But I knew that was it. And in this space was completely white, except there was a door, and it was open, and beyond was black. It was not just any ordinary black, it was the absence of light. And it was so pitch, and I knew that's what I had to do, was step through that door. And I just left him behind, and I walked, and I just stepped in, and I opened my arms, and I started a free fall that was slow. And I just rolled and rolled. And the more I just opened my arms and let go, the freer I felt. And I ended up plop on my creator's lap. And I never felt so loved in my life. And people say that you go through like a review of your life or something, but it's not really like that. It was, what you do is you go through a review of your soul, the damage you've done to your soul. And I sat there, and you're kind of, you know, a captive audience, and I could see this, but I am in such love. It was pretty horrible to see. I mean, it's horrible to see what you do based on your thoughts and feelings. And I look at what I had done to my soul, mostly with the hatred I felt for my ex-husband. I mean, that's embarrassing to say, but yeah, I had a hate on him, and it almost tore my soul to shreds. It was bad. And then my soul was healed. And I think when people say you're born again, that's what it is. You have a healing of your soul. And I was just basking in the love that I felt, because there's no way you can't know how loved and adored you are. It just penetrates your entire being. And then it was time for me to go. And I was set down, and I just started walking, and there was a tunnel. And I just went through it. And as I walked, the darker it got. And I wasn't afraid, but it was harder and harder for me to see. And I kept thinking, I know this isn't dark. And then it dawned on me, I was in such the presence of light that anything else pales in comparison. So I got to this fork in the tunnel, and I didn't know which way to go, but I was so calm and feeling so good that I just thought, well, I'll know. And then I heard this rumbling, and I went that way. And that rumbling turned out to be people who were praying for me, and which was just brought me back into that bed. And that's where I woke up in that hospital or that care facility room. And it was a little bit disconcerting at first, because I'm like, where am I? You know, and it was like, okay, oh yeah, I had a stroke. and I guess I can go home now. I know what happened. I can go home. So I tried to get up, and my dad was there, and he kind of pushed me down. And where are you going? And I'm thinking, well, duh, I'm going home. I'm not getting that. I'm pretty messed up. So I kind of, from the tip of my head to the tip of my toes, I was pretty messed up. I had my left eye had to be taped shut because it wouldn't close and it was drying out the cornea. My right eye was frozen, pointing towards my nose. So it was kind of bizarre looking. The left side of my face had completely fallen, so it just sagged. And that's kind of freaky to see, somebody with half a face. And then because I was hit on both sides, I had stuff on both sides of my body, the left side of my throat, the right side of my tongue, and basically all my limbs. I had nothing. I had no use of my limbs. Sitting up, I couldn't really sit up because I would slide. You don't realize the muscles you need just to maintain an upright position. So, but that didn't seem to bother me at all then, because I felt that love. That love just penetrated my being, and I just felt like the luckiest woman in the world. And people would come in, and how lucky was I? I just felt that love penetrating. And then they started doing some PT on me, and they moved my legs, and I thought I would go insane from the pain. I had so much pain. The physical reality started crashing down on me. And that love I felt sustained me for a while, but the physical overpowered that. It was like, oh my goodness. And I just wanted to go home. My brain was such that two sides, one side's like, okay, we know what happened, so we can go home. We can deal with whatever. Never mind, I can't walk. Never mind, I can't feed myself. Never mind, all these things. And the other side is going, hey, we've got damage reports coming in from all sectors. You got to stay here. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So it was a long haul. I ended up going to an inpatient rehab for about 3.5 weeks, and then an outpatient for about 11 weeks. And then you're sent home. You're good to go. Well, I came home with a wheelchair. I mean, I could walk, but I'd walk holding on to the wheelchair, pushing around. And it was like, yeah, I'm not good to go. But that's what my insurance paid. That's all I could get, and they kept trying to slow me down, saying, slow down because we want you here longer. And my insurance would only pay if you make substantial steps forward, So I couldn't wait. I couldn't live by myself, which was frustrating for me. And my cats were freaked out from the wheelchair and stuff. So that was hard because they didn't want me to touch them. I was different. And so when the PT came and she said that I could live alone, I just pointed my finger and said, okay, everybody out. Get out. And, then I realized maybe that was a little hasty, because pushing yourself around on the carpet with a wheelchair just isn't real, fun. But anyway, I think the first day I was so excited to be on my own. I got myself to the bathroom and showered and dressed. And I sat in my chair going, okay. And then I look around and it's like, now what? Because people were always telling me, I had a schedule. People told me to come here. This is what you do here. This is what, somebody made breakfast and I ate it. Well, now it was on me. It's like, oh, I have to do this. And then it's like, it was kind of bad. I was on a ton of medications throughout my stay, and I didn't want to be on anything. So I ended up with 3 blood pressure medicines, and I took myself off of 1. It was on 2. And I told my doctor, I want to get down to 1 and then none. I don't want to be on this medication. So I decided I needed to start walking. I I just can't just not walk the rest of my life. So I went down to the end of my driveway, which isn't very far, and back, because I knew I had to calculate coming back. And I started going a few more steps every day and back, there and back. And I got to just over a mile. And when I came back, I hit a wall and I went sideways. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I ended up going to a neurologist who told me I had another stroke. And I said, I haven't had another stroke. Something else is wrong. Well, we need to do MRIs. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I eventually acquiesced and had one. And he comes back, good news, you haven't had another stroke. Duh, I said that. And he goes, so you're good to go. And I go, I am not good to go. I was fine. And now I'm not. I am so sideways. I can't stand up hardly. I'm leaning on this cane now. I wasn't like that. He goes, well, I need to increase your medication. I go, that's it? He said, yeah. Well, what he did was double my dose from 25 to 50 milligrams of this. I won't even say what it is, but this medication. And I called up and I said, can this be right? Yes, this is right. That's what the nurse said. Yes, doctor said this is right. I took that thing and it went from like 100 to 1,000 with the dizziness. And I was like, it's this medication that has caused this. And I still haven't recovered from that yet, but I will. And I called up and I said, hey, it's this medication. And she said, well, I'll have to talk to him. His response was, well, you'll have to go to your primary for that. And I was like, are you kidding? I asked the nurse, I said, he did this. He can't handle this. He can't handle what this has done to me when he did. No, you have to go to your primary. And I'm like, this is so crazy. It's so crazy. So I started seeking answers for myself. I thought, other than medical, I thought I need something. So I just went crazy looking and looking because I had time. And so I got to where my friend sent me an email and she was talking about a medical intuitive. And I thought, why didn't I think of that? So I decided to start looking for medical intuitives and I found one. And he was so sarcastic. His sense of humor was so fun. I just knew he was it. So I went with him, and one of my big issues is my feet wouldn't bend to get into shoes. It would take me sometimes an hour to get my shoes on. And it was quite painful actually to get shoes on. It was frustrating and painful. And I'll tell you, by the time I was done with him, I could easily put my shoes on. I had a lot of change in me, and I was so grateful for that. But as with most things, you kind of know when you're done, you got to move on. So then I heard about somebody that did emotion code and body code healing. And so I went to her and I got some pretty good results, let go of a lot of trapped emotions and things like that. And I really liked it. So I ended up becoming a certified emotion code therapist and a certified body code therapist because I really liked it. But the thing about it, I did some practice for a little while, mostly for free, just to try it out and help people. But the thing I realized is people were coming to me not wanting to do anything themselves. They were like, here, just fix this for me. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think anything. And it bothered me. It bothered me that it's like I was a crutch. And I know what that crutch is like. I don't want to be a crutch for anyone, and I don't want to seek a crutch. So I just kind of put that by the side. And I get people, well, when are you going to do that? And I go, I'll be working on it. And I just never could make myself. I got a website, I got, all the stuff, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it right now. It's not that I didn't want to help people, and I would, but it just doesn't seem right to me. And then I went to another lady before I met you, and the lure was she performed this healing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm up for that. Do me. And I'm like, wait a minute. I right in, I was like, mistake, because I'm looking outside myself. I'm like, what are you doing? So I started kind of floundering with that, and I just wasn't even showing up. It was a lot of money, and I just wasn't even showing up. I wasn't even looking at the homework because she kept throwing the pitch in, I can keep doing these healings for you for this much money. And I thought, no, but thank you. And my friend Shannon, I she had been telling me about you, and I was like, yeah, well, okay. And I'm telling you, the second I came to one class is the day my life changed. It really did change, because I realized you are a guide. You're not there to do it for me. You're there to guide. And I struggled a little bit, and then I reached out to you, and you were right there to help me see what I was doing. And I started really making some changes. I had so much pain in my legs for over a year. It was started with the one I dislocated my right patella, and it wouldn't heal. I went through my chiropractor, and I went to, this kind of therapy. It was painful, but it was helping. And then it would go out again. And he's like, I don't even know what. And I'm like, I don't either, but this hurts me so bad. And then I started over a year ago, my left leg had sciatic so bad. I ended up being almost, chair ridden. Like, do I need to get a wheelchair? Because I couldn't walk with so much pain. And it was after our one-on-one session that it dawned on me. It's like, hey, wait a minute. You know what? I don't think this is bad. This is a healing. And I let that pain wash through me. And I haven't had pain in my legs, except they almost atrophied. So walking is that pain you feel after exercise. And when you haven't exercised for a long time, that's what I feel every day. I mean, for a while, it had been getting up out of a chair was so painful that I would sit there and try to get myself beefed up. I found myself sitting there going, okay, you can do this. I'd get up and I go, oh, there's no pain. It becomes so habitual. You do things that are so habitual. And I get in my bed, it's a little high. I get up there on my knee, and it's like, no pain, no pain. It's been kind of amazing. I've had heart issues, and I thought, I'm going to, one night I stopped taking the medication. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need anything. I'm good. Well, it was after that, I never thought I was one of those people saying, uh-oh, something's wrong with me. But there I was. My heart started hurting at night, and I was like, oh my God, I should have taken the pill. It's like, maybe I should call 911. I was like freaking out. And I go, wait a minute. You're healing. Your body's healing. And I just kept saying, thank you, body. And it hurt bad, but I just kept breathing and thanking my body, knowing that it was healing. And that pain went through me and left. It was so crazy, wonderful. And then I think we talked again, and it's like you told me that my body needs to work in the rhythm of me. And so when my heart will now, I haven't even checked my blood pressure because I believe it's fine. But anytime my heart starts beating fast, and I go, it's okay, because it's beating to my rhythm. My body knows exactly what to do, how much blood needs to go through, how many heartbeats it needs. It just knows this. And my heart just settles down, and it just I just feel wonderful. And I have come to, through my life experience and through all the experience, and especially with you, I've come to understand that love is the answer to every question. When I was writing my book, and it should be out probably by June, but when I was writing my book, I kept thinking there's got to be an answer, and I came up with that it's love. It's absolutely love. Love can absolutely change every single thing. It doesn't matter the circumstance. And with your guidance, I have totally come to understand that it's self-love is the most important thing you can do. You have to love yourself completely. And when you know that the divine loves you beyond measure, and that is the truth. When you know that, there is no reason you can't love yourself, regardless. And I spent a lifetime not loving myself, not liking myself, and I'm easing myself into it. And it's just, you get that feeling, you get that tingly feeling that only love can give you, you know? And I don't know, I feel like everything can change if you could just find love for yourself. And I don't know, it's like I don't know how someone cannot do it if you know that you're loved beyond measure. So anyway, that's about my story in a nutshell.
I love that, Brenda. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And from my perspective, I didn't have the same experience that you did, obviously, but when I was a little girl, I would go to that space of unconditional love when I went to bed at night. And I would lay in bed, I would close my eyes, and then I would just be in that space of unconditional love. And I looked around and I knew that that's what is true.
Yeah.
It is true today, tomorrow, yesterday, a million years from now, a billion years before now. Like, it just is.
Exactly.
And there is no time. And that is what is.
That's true. And the thing is, that's what gives you hope for tomorrow, because you know the fundamental truth is that you are loved beyond measure. There is nothing else. There's nothing else but love.
Exactly.
And all the, the stuff, if you see the stuff on TV or you watch it on, your YouTubes or whatever, yeah, you can watch that all day long and you get into that space of fear. Well, that just does you in. It does you in. And you got to get out. I know a lot of people that's habitual. Well, I got to know what's happening. It's like, well, you don't. You really don't know, because that's not what's really happening. That's just fear mongering, in my opinion. That's what's fear mongering. And
yeah,
I just think if you could make yourself a different habit of meditating, praying, giving thanks, giving gratitude, that kind of thing. I got an under-the-counter aqua, I don't even know what it's called, Aqua True water filter. And I had a countertop one, and I decided to get one that you got a little deal. And I put a sticker on there that says love, so that the water is blessed, and you can't help but get it. So I don't know, you can put that, you don't have to have one of those water filters, but you can put a cup with your sticker on it or something, just to get that love vibration coming to you, so.
Exactly. And Dr. Emoto's, most people know of Dr. Emoto's work, and how you put the sticker on, you take the water from the same container and you put stickers on the one that you put the hate sticker on, and you freeze the water crystals. They are all distorted, and the one that has the love is brilliant. And our bodies are made of water.
Yeah. And I just, when I saw that with Kathy Bradley, and she had brought that up, and I thought, I knew that. And so when I got this, that was my first thought, is I'm gonna I'm going to put love on there. I think I might put a few more joy and, gratitude and thanks and different stuff. I got it's, a fairly decent size, so I got room. It's
Beautiful.
like, yeah, it's like, why not get that vibration in you of love, and I don't
Yes.
know. I think everything's vibration, everything's
Yes.
energy. And it's like, if we can shift that energy, that vibration to one of love within ourselves, you end up not only loving yourself, but you have a capacity for compassion and love for the world, And I think that's really the only way we can have heaven on earth is through love. It's through love.
Here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because the way I look at it is that we live in that field of unconditional love because it is all pervasive. It is
Right.
everywhere. It is the field in which all universes are suspended.
Yeah.
And it is something that we need to be able to tune into, to be able to literally focus, close our eyes, and really tune in. It's it's the ability to match our vibration to
Yes.
that.
Yes. I am going on with you because I still struggle with focus because my mind has always gone a million miles a minute. And so focus, I'm always thinking of the next thing. And when I can focus, when I can balance myself, which is huge, you show us how to balance yourself. That was huge for me. But I want to learn a better focus. I'm using crystals to help hold so I can focus and things because it's so easy in this electronic world, a ding or breaking news flash or one of those things to knock you right off course. And it's a little hard to get back on once you get sucked into the news stories or the things you watch on. I don't know. I started watching these true crime things on
Oh,
YouTube. And I'm like, what am I doing? And so once you start down the path of something, it gives some kind of algorithm and more of that stuff comes. So
yes,
it's like, oh, you're interested in this. And so you get all this, you keep
yes,
getting it and you are inundated with it. And I realized real shortly in is like, yeah, I don't want those in my feed. What I want are your solution Sundays, your lunch with Lisa's, your things that you talk about. I want spiritual thing, Abraham Hicks, So I just kept clicking on pulling those things up. So what I see now is not news. It's not, crime stuff. It's not horror stuff. My feed is all uplifting me. And I find too, it's like if I've got people or my sister or somebody in the house that doesn't really necessarily want to hear what I'm hearing, I put it on just with no sound. So the vibration of it keeps coming out. I want 2022 to be the best year of my life. And I have no doubt it will be. I just feel like my physical body is going to completely do it. Well, it already has done 180, and it's just going to keep flipping over and over to where all the physical that I experienced from the stroke, I will be able to accept the healing of it and all the aftermaths of it. And my whole body's going to change in this next year to come. So it's really exciting. It's a very exciting time. And I hope everybody in the world kind of gets this, that they find a way to find that hope, get that love for themselves going on, tune into being loved. Once you get that you're loved, it's kind of hard to go back. You can't just, say, oh, well, that was a mistake, because it's not. It's never a mistake.
exactly. When we I love what you talked about when you're in that space of the unconditional love and beyond the shadow of a doubt that
Mhm.
that's what is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you come into this physical world and it's like, whoa, hang on a
Yeah.
minute, that's not what's going on here.
No.
And it's easy to allow the physicalness to pull our distraction, to pull us away
Yeah.
from that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And this
Absolutely.
has been going on for humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. That, in our normal natural state, we are that love. That is who and what we are.
Yeah.
And this society distorts all of that. It's like, well, you can't be that way. You have to look like this or do this thing, or you have to have this amount of money, or you have to pay your taxes, or all of these
Yeah.
rules and regulations about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and what is and what's just fantasy. They talk
Yeah.
about, when we talk about unconditional love, and oh, well, that's just some fantasy, heaven on earth, that's just some fantasy, that's something that you get to later on, that's not here.
Yeah.
So it's really up to each one of us. Your story is such a beautiful inspiration, because it really is a choice.
It is.
What we tune into is what becomes our reality.
Absolutely. And I've said this probably a billion times throughout my book, is like, you can change your reality. It's just, you're a choice, one choice away from changing your life. And it's that simple, and it's that hard.
Right.
It's that's it. You think, well, that's easy. But when you're being judged and people are telling you what to do, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that, it's like you have fear comes into you. It's like, oh, this is due, I can't pay this, or whatever comes up. You can't live like that. You're just one simple choice away. It's like, I'm not going to look at that, because that's not true. That's not true. And when we start seeing that some of the stuff that is being taught to us and told to us and shown to us is not true, once you start seeing that, pour some love on it. Pour some love and watch how your life changes.
Exactly.
It's so amazing to just watch your life change. Watch it change, and not have any regrets. Be so grateful for the changes that come. It's mind-blowing, really, when you start feeling that self-love. I was telling you earlier, this Christmas, there was such an outpouring of love. I was a little overwhelmed. I'm not used to it. And it's like, I better get used to this, because this is what's true. This is what's true. So we have, if you're not used to it, it's okay. I mean, people aren't used to it, but
No.
get used to it. Get used to it, because that's what your truth is, and that's what's going to set you free, and that's what's going to change your life. You gotta make the choice to accept that you're loved and you are lovable. So
Exactly. And the nature of the soul is unconditional love itself.
exactly.
And if we, I often think, as that 2 and 3-year-old, when I would just be part of that unconditional love, that field, I was free when I was 2 and 3 years old. I just lived. I just beed. I
Yeah.
just be me. That was it. And
Yeah.
I never wanted to go to school, because I knew that that was where the programming started. That's where, now they've got you, now your life is going to be this this is the setup for the 9 to 5, the work, be this
Mm-hmm.
way, do this thing. You're only free on the weekends, maybe in the
Yeah.
evenings you're free. And it was so overwhelming to me. I didn't feel like I had any recourse. I couldn't not go to school. That wasn't going to fly.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, now I guess my only option is to go into the programming and just do what everybody else does here because it's the only thing that's accepted. You know,
Yeah.
and I looked through, I could see through history. It was clear to me, you know, that the people that didn't just accept everything that is, the ones that had that love, that message of unconditional love, well, they kind of met with some really unsavory endings, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, I realized that, wow, it's not safe to be me and be the unconditional love. So that was the setup for my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, living this whole life of trying to do the right thing. And finally, when I ended up facing cancer and was just like, I have done the right thing right to my own demise here. Like
You're right.
I am not doing the right thing for me. And I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that the right thing for me was to get back to that space of unconditional love, because that was my salvation. That was my answer. The soul is the solution, which is why we have Solution Sunday.
Right. Right.
Because when we get back to the pure, unconditional nature of ourselves, our own true nature, that's where all the healing is, because it's being separated from our true nature and from nature itself that all of the dis-ease comes from. That, you know, we look out at the world and we see man disrespecting nature, you know, cutting down the rainforest, slashing these, you know, putting the pollution into the air, spraying the air full of toxins, spraying the crops full of toxins, you know, dumping waste into the waters. You know, this isn't normal. It's not natural. It's not healthy for any of us.
No.
And living in this toxic environment, look at the news. Look how toxic those energies are. Look at the commercials on TV, you know, pharmaceutical after pharmaceutical after ask your doctor, is this the pill that's for you? This is the pill that'll fix everything for you. You know, all of these.
But if you're allergic to it, don't take this and blah, 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 could kill you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just a side note to kill you. But
other than that, it's good.
Right. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Look at all of the messages that we receive from childhood. Listen to your parents, listen to the teacher, listen to the doctor, listen to the preacher, listen to the tax man, listen to the government. All of these messages that put the authority outside of us, that we can't be our own authority. And what you said earlier, it's like, there is nobody else that's going to save us. There's nobody else that can heal us. It's doing our own inner work and restoring ourselves to the true nature of who we are as a souled being. Unconditional love. That is who and what we are. And as that, we automatically live in peace and harmony with nature. We live in harmony with the cycles and the seasons, with the plants and the animals. We want to live in harmony with our neighbors. We don't want to be going off to war. We don't want to be causing trouble with. It's like, we just want to live happy, healthy lives in harmony. Like, that's our natural state of being. But we're not encouraged in that direction. We are encouraged in the other direction.
Right. Anything like that is being discouraged. You know, I find I was raised in a certain religion. I don't want to disparage anybody, but God is to be feared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not true. That's so not true. Yeah. You know, if you had gone where I'd gone, you'd know how much you were loved. There is no judgment. there is nothing but love, just absolutely nothing but love. And oh no, you got to do this, this, and this, or you're going to be judged and you're going to hell and you could go to purgatory, you could do this. And it's like it's like, no, that's not how it is. That just isn't.
This is purgatory. This
Yeah.
is hell. Living with masks and shots and taxes and rules and regulations, and
that's it.
That is literally, have been living in hell for a very long time.
I agree. I think my saving grace when I was young, because I knew this wasn't my home, I was having a hard time with that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I had a hearing problem that wasn't realized until I was in third grade. So I think I was spared a lot of programming because of that. I had a lot of fear because things would happen out of the blue and I'd be like, what happened here? But I think overall it was a good thing that I didn't hear a lot. So so I don't know, for me, I don't know. I just wish everybody could find that, stop the judging. It's pointing fingers at self-judgment too. It's like I guilty of a lot of self-judgment. And just over this Christmas season, love just keeps hitting me in the face because I've asked for it. I want that in my life and it's coming at me. So I think anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So
exactly. We have Michelle is on saying, Brenda, you are so incredibly awesome. And Shannon saying, good morning. Good morning, ladies. Thank you all for joining us this morning. If anybody has any questions for Brenda, please feel free to pop them in the chat. So I love this conversation because we are taught to judge ourselves. This society wants us to be a cookie cutter version of something that has nothing to do with human nature. And we are then taught to judge ourselves. Other people judge us, so it's easier to judge ourselves than to have to be judged by others. So we end up judging ourselves first before anybody else has the pleasure of judging us.
And two, for myself, I was always a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to be happy. I wanted to fix everything for everybody. I felt that was somehow my job. If someone was unhappy, I was at fault. And it was like, oh, how do I fix this for you? And I don't know. I just find things always work out. They will always work out if you just let go of your way it should work out. I have always been, okay, it should go like this, this, and this. And if it's not, you hang on so tight, you go, wait a minute, it's supposed to work out. It's supposed to work out. And when you let go, things will work out and you go, wow, this is awesome. It's way better than you could have ever expected. If you let that law of attraction, the law of vibration kind of flow, things will always work out. So healing is a given. Healing is a given, I think, if you let it happen.
Exactly. That's why I like to say healing is a no-brainer.
Right.
Because when we get the thoughts out of the way and we just allow nature to take its course, the body is designed to heal itself automatically.
That's, I think, one of the key things I learned from you is balance, is the balance. And it's like, it's got to be harder than that. It's got to be. But I've realized it just isn't. When you get your thoughts out of the way, it just isn't. It is really, your simplicity of self-healing is exactly that. It's simple. It's a real simple way to do it. It's just getting out of your own way. That's the problem.
It's really difficult, because we have been, from day one, we have
programmed,
been really abused by this society, by the authority figures of this society who benefit from our suffering. So when we look at the government, there is no such thing as government. There are people who act in roles of authority, and they benefit greatly from this game, of all of us paying taxes, following their rules, doing all of this. And we're on the short end of that stick. When we look at the pharmaceutical industry, there are people who are benefiting greatly from the situation right now. They've been benefiting for many, many, many years, ever since the beginning of the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, when you start to, when you stop to think about the vast power of the pharmaceutical, I started noticing my sister wanted to go to get something for sinus or allergy or something. And I walked in there and I'm like, oh my Lord, the amount of product, row after row after row, bottom to top. It's for this, it's for this, it's for this. And I'm just was overwhelmed by the amount, not to mention the pharmaceutical prescription drugs behind the counter, row after row after row of bottles of pills and what have you. And it was kind of overwhelming, going, wow, this thing is huge. And that was one pharmacy. And they're like, I think every town's got 3.
Exactly. So that is deeply ingrained in the psyche. Very few people actually notice that. That's what's normal. That's what's expected. Lee says our beliefs have been given to us by those who would benefit from us having them. That's exactly right. And there are people that are benefiting greatly from all of these products that are on the shelves, just like you're saying. But when we're living from product to product to product to product with multiple products every day, forcing our bodies into unnatural rhythms, we're at the short end of that stick.
Very much so, and more than one way too. Not only are we on the short end of the physical stick because it's making us sicker, we're on the short end of the financial stick because we're paying to do that to ourselves. It's very sad. And I've tried talking to people with migraines and stuff. It's like, if you could just acknowledge that's a healing and breathe through it. I can't handle the pain, but they're in so much pain now. It's like, what would be different?
Right. And
except you get rid of this.
Yeah. And it's like, what's the real pain? Like the pain in the body follows the pain in the soul.
Right.
When we are separated from the soul, it is painful to live, because we live in this state of disconnection and dis-ease. And it's a space of disharmony inside. And the healing happens inside. So it's the ability to, if we look at that space that we've been talking about, this space of unconditional love, which is all pervasive through the entirety of all that is, if that's our palette, we have picked up all kinds of toxic thoughts and beliefs, toxic, chemicals in our atmosphere,
right.
All kinds of toxins. And if we simply clear out all of those toxins, we come back to our natural state of purity. We have to look at the toxic beliefs, the toxic energies, the energies, shame, fear, guilt, worry, doubt. Those are all toxic energies.
Right.
And we're not taught to look at them. We just think, oh no, there's something wrong with me. It's like, no, you've got an energy attached to you somewhere that you can literally clear out. And if you clear that energy out, if you clear out guilt, you don't experience it anymore because it's not in your energy field.
Right.
You're not thinking that color anymore.
Right. And I think you get a lot of those vibrations off TV.
Oh,
you get
TV years ago.
I'm getting rid of my cable at the end of this month because I don't watch it. And I turned on something like HGTV or something like that, and the commercials were all pharmaceutical commercials.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is putting out a negative vibe into my home. I don't want that negative vibe. I don't want to see news that's talking about, you know, doom and gloom and, you know, whatever. You never see anything happy. It's like, and they say, if you put all the news that was negative in a stream, it would just be less than 5 minutes compared to what's good. But they rag on and on. I mean, look at that whole OJ, the big chase, the 15-mile-an-hour chase on the freeway that took 2 days to cover. You know, like every station everywhere was focused on his Bronco going 15 miles an hour or whatever on the freeway. And that's all anybody talked about, that you couldn't see anything else. I just kept not looking. I turned off the TV, and I was a TV watcher back then, and I turned it on, and there it still was, you know, 12 hours later. I'm like, are you kidding me? It just seemed like it went on forever. Yeah. The Twin Towers, when they were attacked, that never goes away.
Yeah.
They bring that up every year. And I'm like, what? Now, what were the point of that? You know, it's like things happen and they are over. Yeah. You know, it's like, I had a stroke, it's over. You know, I can't keep saying, well, I had the stroke. And I was doing that. Mm-hmm. I have the stroke. So therefore, these things are wrong with me. And it's like, you can't do that. You got to let go of what happened back then, so you can move on into who you are in the state of love, in that state of love. So.
Exactly. And, you know, when we remember that state, we automatically start creating heaven on earth for ourselves. Just like you said, it's so simple. It's easy. The synchronicities that happen, the up leveling in our lives that happen, the joy that happens. You know, there are many people that are benefiting from our suffering, and we can continue straight down that path without even thinking about it, or we can start to notice, and we can start to make changes, and we can start to choose a higher octave of living.
Yeah, for sure.
There is so much joy that's available, so much new that is available. There are so many people working diligently at creating heaven on earth right now. If that was actually covered by the mainstream news, we would have heaven on earth within the next 6 months.
Absolutely.
Because there are people that are doing this right now who are taking down the bad guys in the background. But it's just the bad guys that are prevailing the news. It's right. Like, if we actually were looking at the good guys, the you and me's of the world, who are actually making steps, taking strides to actually up-level those around us, we could have a whole new earth by the end of 2022, easily.
Yeah.
So how are we each going to step into 2022? What are we going to do on a personal level? Because creating heaven on earth happens when we bring it into our bodies. We have to literally birth heaven on earth through our own physical structure. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Whether you're in a male body or a female body, it is about birthing a new reality for ourselves first. Yeah. It's bringing it in vibrationally into us, focusing on that love that we are, and making choices for health. You know, making choices against disease is not the same thing as making choices for health, no matter what they want us to believe. You know, preventive measures are not the same thing as choosing for health. And choosing for our happiness, choosing against the stuff that we don't want, is not the same as choosing for what we do want. So choosing against the stuff that we don't want. Well, I don't want any more of this in 2022. I don't want any more of that. You're simply engaging with the stuff that you don't want.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm encouraging everybody to take a little time, turn off all of the media around, turn off the cell phone, turn off the TV, the radio, whatever it is. Have a little bit of quiet time, put a little music on in the background, some beautiful frequencies, and look into your future. What do you want to create for 2022? How much joy would you like? How much health and well-being would you like? What would you actually like to start experiencing more of in 2022? Because what you want to experience more of is the stuff you want to focus on. Because when you start focusing on it, you will start seeing more. What we focus on is what we see, it's what we experience, and it's what we birth into our lives as our reality. So we can focus on all of the garbage, but we're simply birthing more and more of that. So let's look at 2022. How much health, how much happiness, how much freedom, joy, ease, harmony can you create for yourselves in 2022? And what can you do to minimize the toxins in your life in 2022? What are the things that are depositing negativity, chemical waste, things that are not healthy for us? What are those things that are being deposited into your life that are working against your health and happiness? And how can you start to remove those toxins from your life? And usually it's really, really simple. It's not difficult for anyone that is looking to remove toxins from your body. In January, Melissa Deely and I will be leading a detox. Melissa's doing it's a functional medicine detox. So I know that some of you in the Soul Source Healing group are going to be doing that with us. So that's an option if you're interested in that. Keep your eye on Soul Source Healing. We will be putting the information out. You still have time to join. And Brenda's book will be coming out sometime in the spring or early summer. And we're really looking forward to that. And what's the name of your book?
It's called A Stroke of Luck.
And we will be putting that information out in the Soul Source Healing Facebook group so that everybody has the option to purchase this beautiful story, because it's an amazing story.
Thank
Brenda,
you.
this has been such an honor having you here today.
Thank you very much, Lisa. This was really fun. This was fun. Thank you.
Yes, I look forward to our continued working together in 2022 to see how much we can create with you in 2022. Yes. Beautiful. Delbert says, yes, let us focus on the love and the wonderful 2022. Thank you for this call. Thank you for watching.
Yes.
So Michelle says, I'm up leveling right now.
Excellent.
Bravo. We love to see that. Great. So Brenda, thank you so much for this beautiful gift. And maybe we will put in, Brenda is also an amazing singer. She has been doing some work behind the scenes, and she's got a beautiful rendition on YouTube. So we're going to put that in the Soul Source Healing and in the show notes too, so that you can hear. Tell us the name of the song that you recorded.
It's All of Me.
All of Me. And it's a beautiful jazz rendition. So will Brenda be in the next class? Yes.
Yes.
Moving into the mastermind in January 2022. So I have two things coming up in January for anybody who would be wanting to work with me. We have a mastermind that Brenda and Michelle and Shannon, Delbert, We've all been doing this mastermind. We're continuing in 2022 in January, bringing the soul into the body, really starting to look at how to embody the soul for ultimate healing and well-being. We'll be talking about the light body and all different kinds of things. And I also have aligning with your radiantly healthy self. And it's a 90-day journey within to help you reconnect to the truth of who you are and to start to understand how your body actually is designed to function, because we are not being told the truth. So the truth is that your body is brilliant and your body is designed to heal itself, but only every single time, like my friend Keith says. Keith Leon, he always has words of wisdom. So your body is designed to heal itself every single time. You simply have to give it the right environment. So the aligning with your radiantly healthy self shows you how to provide yourself that environment for the ultimate healing, so you can reconnect to your inner truth, so you can be the authority on your own body. So if you are interested in either of these things, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me through Facebook Messenger. You can reach out to me through my website, connectingyoutoyou.com, or you can shoot me an email at lisa@connectingyoutoyou.com. So again, Brenda, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story of hope and healing with each of us this year. Thank you for helping us close out this year on a beautiful high note, and looking forward to everything that happens in 2022.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Until next week, create for yourselves a great week. Have a very, very happy New Year's Eve celebration, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.